March 30th, 2024, 11:30 p.m. Sylmar, California. An alarm triggers at a cash storage facility. Police are dispatched. They check the building, find nothing, and leave. 4 hours later, 3 more alarms. 3 more responses. Same result. This was not unusual. The facility had generated dozens of false alarms over the previous year. Officers had learned to expect nothing. None of them checked the roof. A hole had been cut through the metal. Industrial equipment. Hours of work. By the time the last patrol car pulled away, a crew was already inside the vault. $30 million in cash. Loaded and removed before sunrise. The theft was not discovered until Monday. 40 hours later, investigators found no signs of forced entry on the vault door. The alarm system had worked. The cameras had recorded. None of it mattered. Whoever did this knew the building, knew the schedule, knew the money would be there, knew the alarms would be ignored. The company responsible for protecting the money was GuardaWorld, one of the largest private security firms in the United States. And this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. So who were the people behind the heist? How did they get in without being stopped? And how did a company trusted with billions allow $30 million to disappear overnight? This is one of the most complicated robberies ever uncovered, full of twists, inside knowledge, and a history most people don't know. And to understand how it happened, you have to follow the story all the way to the end. Most people have never heard of cash logistics. The industry operates in the background, invisible to anyone who pays with plastic or taps their phone at a register. But physical currency still moves through the American economy in vast quantities. Restaurants, retailers, casinos, cannabis dispensaries. Businesses that deal in cash need somewhere to put it. Banks could handle this. They used to. But over the past 3 decades, a different model emerged. Private companies began offering to pick up cash deposits in armored vehicles, store them in secure facilities, and deliver the funds to banks on behalf of their clients. The companies charge fees for this service. In exchange, businesses get convenience, they get flexibility, and they trust that their money is safe. 3 companies dominate this industry in North America: Brinks, Loomis, and GuardaWorld. GuardaWorld began in 1995 as Trans-Quebec Security, a small Canadian firm founded by Stephen Crétier. Over the next 2 decades, Crétier built an empire through aggressive acquisition. He bought competitors. He expanded into new markets. By 2024, GuardaWorld employed over 132,000 people worldwide. The company handled cash services for clients including McDonald's, Starbucks, and Trader Joe's. Its armored trucks became a common sight on American roads. Crétier became a billionaire. The company's growth was remarkable. It was also, according to some observers, reckless. Chip McGuffey spent decades in the armored car industry, holding senior positions at both Brinks and Loomis. He watched GuardaWorld's expansion with a mixture of admiration and concern. They came out of nowhere, he said, and just grew exponentially. The problem, in my opinion, is that with such fast growth, you're going to have both customer issues and security issues. The Sylmar facility sat on Roxford Street, a quiet industrial corridor in the San Fernando Valley 20 miles north of downtown Los Angeles. The building was unremarkable from the outside. Concrete walls, loading docks, the kind of structure that blends into commercial landscapes across America. Inside, the facility processed cash from businesses across Southern California. Armored trucks arrived throughout the day. Workers counted and sorted currency. Client deposits were wrapped in plastic, placed on pallets, and stored in the vault until they could be transferred to banks. On any given day, the Silmer vault might hold tens of millions of dollars. Jeffrey Zwirn has spent over 40 years in the security industry. He trains law enforcement personnel. He consults on facility protection. When asked about the kind of security a cash vault should have, his answer was detailed. 2 separate alarm systems, signals transmitted to different command centers, sensors that detect radio frequency jamming, motion sensing cameras that alert personnel to movement on the roof, and constant testing, monthly at minimum, to make sure everything works. Whether the Silmer facility met these standards would become the subject of intense scrutiny. Saturday, March 30th, 2024, 11:30 p.m. An alarm triggered at the Garda World facility on Roxford Street. The Los Angeles Police Department received the alert. A service call was generated. Officers were dispatched. They found nothing. This was not unusual. The Silmer facility had generated over a dozen similar calls in the previous 12 months. False alarms were routine. Sensors malfunctioned. Systems glitched. Each time, officers responded. Each time, they cleared the scene and moved on. The 11:30 call was dismissed. What happened over the next several hours remains partially obscured. No surveillance footage has been released. The FBI and LAPD have disclosed only fragments of what they know. But from police logs, witness statements, and physical evidence, a reconstruction is possible. The thieves entered through the roof. A resident at the Tahitian Mobile Home Park, adjacent to the facility, later told investigators she heard a mechanical whirring sound. The noise lasted at least 2 hours. It emanated from the direction of the Garda World building. She did not call police. Industrial sounds were common in the neighborhood. The whirring was consistent with cutting equipment, industrial-grade tools, capable of penetrating metal roofing and concrete, the kind of equipment used in construction or demolition. Evidence suggested the thieves may have attempted multiple entry points. Aerial footage taken days after the heist showed a boarded-up hole on the side of the building. A pile of rubble sat nearby. Whether this was a failed breach or a secondary access point remains unclear, but the roof was the primary route. They cut through, they dropped into the facility, and somehow they did not trigger an immediate response. 4:30 a.m., Easter Sunday. 3 more alarms triggered at the Roxford facility. LAPD responded to each. Officers checked the perimeter. They found no signs of forced entry visible from the exterior. No broken windows, no open doors. Nothing that suggested an ongoing crime. Garda World was alerted during at least one of these responses. The company did not register an intrusion. The officers left. Inside, the thieves continued working. The vault presented the final obstacle. Cash storage vaults are engineered to resist exactly this kind of assault. Reinforced walls, electronic locks, multiple authentication systems. Opening one without authorization should trigger immediate alerts, should summon armed response, should be impossible without weeks of advance work or inside knowledge. The vault opened. No visible damage to the exterior mechanism. No obvious signs of forced entry. The thieves either possessed the codes, bypassed the electronics, or exploited a vulnerability that investigators have not publicly disclosed. $30 million sat inside. Cash from businesses across Southern California, wrapped in plastic, organized on pallets, segregated by client. The thieves loaded what they could carry. $30 million in small bills weighs approximately 660 pounds. Moving that quantity requires vehicles, containers, a coordinated team, time. They had all of it. By dawn on Easter Sunday, the vault was empty, the thieves were gone, and no one at Garda World knew what had happened. Monday, April 1st, 2024. Staff arrived at the summer facility expecting a routine start to the week. Easter was over. Business would resume. The vault needed to be opened. The cash prepared for transport to banks. The vault door swung open, empty pallets, discarded plastic wrapping, no money. A Garda World employee who asked not to be identified described the scene to local television. "This is mind-blowing bad," he said. $30 million in the valley, gone. The employee added that he had no idea there was so much cash stored in the summer facility. Neither apparently did most people. The break-in was formally reported to LAPD around noon. The FBI joined the investigation within hours. A joint task force was established. The largest cash robbery in American history was now an active federal case. Crime scene technicians documented what the thieves left behind. The hole in the roof, the damage to the wall, the vault, intact but emptied. They collected evidence, they photographed surfaces. They searched for the forensic traces that might identify who had done this. The initial findings pointed in one direction. Investigators determined it must have been a sophisticated group, according to sources who spoke to the Los Angeles Times. The operation was too clean, too precise. Very few individuals would have known of the huge sums of cash that were being kept within the facility. The question was obvious. Who did know? Jim McDonald served as sheriff of Los Angeles County from 2014 to 2018. He understood how investigations like this unfold. "Very well thought out," he said of the heist, "very well orchestrated, to be able to get in undetected, to be able to get into an internal safe, to be able to remove that much property. That requires some knowledge of the alarm system, the layout of the place, the camera surveillance equipment." Robert Clark spent years as special agent in charge at the FBI's Los Angeles field office. He outlined what investigators would be examining. They will try to determine who had access to the facility, who was aware of the schedule, who knew that the money would be in the facility and for how long, the security around the facility, and how much time they would be able to have to gain access and move such a large amount of money. Susan Lynch is a professor at USC who spent 30 years working in corporate crime investigations. She was direct about what the evidence suggested. "It's a sophisticated team effort with potential insiders," she said, "as well as a very sophisticated outside crew that would do things like breaking in through the roof. I think there was quite an interesting organization that was put together to do this. An interesting organization. The experts were not speculating wildly. They were reading the evidence. A crew that could cut through a roof, bypass alarms, open a vault without visible damage, load $30 million without detection, escape while police responded to multiple alarms just outside. That crew needed information. Detailed information. The kind that comes from inside. Garda World declined interview requests. The company issued no public statement explaining how the breach occurred. The LAPD and FBI said only that they were jointly investigating to determine the person or group responsible. But if investigators wanted context for why an inside job was plausible, they did not need to look far. Garda World had seen this before. September 15th, 2012, Riviera Beach, Florida. 2 robbers armed with AK-47s stormed into a Garda World cash storage facility. They confronted a supervisor named Shalmar Towns. One of the gunmen struck Towns in the head with the butt of his rifle. They tied him up. Within minutes, they were loading a Chevrolet S10 with cash. They escaped with a little more than $3 million. Towns appeared to be a victim. He had been beaten, restrained, traumatized by armed criminals. The FBI investigated. What they discovered changed the narrative entirely. Towns had masterminded the heist. According to court documents, Towns had identified the perfect timing for the robbery. Garda World was scheduled to move its operations to a more secure property. Security at the current facility was winding down. Towns knew the vulnerabilities. He knew the schedule. He told his accomplices that if they made a show of force, none of the company's employees would risk their lives. He was right. Towns was convicted. But the Riviera Beach robbery was not an isolated incident. In 2022, another Garda World theft occurred in San Leandro, California. Again, investigators found ties to company employees. And in 2020, the Tampa Bay Times published an investigation that revealed something more troubling than individual crimes. The reporting exposed systemic failures at Garda World, problems that went to the core of how the company operated. The Times found that Garda had lost track of millions of dollars inside its vaults. The company then concealed the missing money from the banks that were its clients. Court records and interviews described some of the vaults as chaotic places. Employees routinely ignored protocol. Money went missing. Some facilities were rife with unsolved thefts. Others lacked basic safeguards. High-quality security cameras were absent. Procedures were not followed. Garda sent banks daily accountings of their vault balances. As cash went missing, some branches kept reporting that the money was still there. High-level executives became aware of the discrepancies as early as 2014. A company document obtained by the Times showed they set out to tally how much was missing. The estimate came to approximately $9 million. The document identified 4 vaults of chief concern. The main New York City branch in Long Island City was missing $2.2 million. Wilmington, Delaware was missing $1.3 million. Needham, Massachusetts was missing $1.2 million. Baltimore was missing $1 million. The document urged action. It recommended assessing the losses, determining if recovery was feasible, implementing procedures to avoid recurrence. What actually happened was less straightforward. Brian Newell managed one of Garda World's armored truck branches. In 2018, he received a call from a high-ranking supervisor with a bizarre order. Load all the coins stored at his Connecticut branch onto a truck bound for Massachusetts. Auditors from Bank of America were coming to Garda's Dedham branch to count money. Some of it was missing. Newell's branch held about $20,000 in coins belonging to Bank of America and 2 other banks. He sent it all. A few days later, Newell learned it hadn't been enough. The shortage was so large that other New England branches had been told to send money as well. They were robbing Peter to pay Paul, moving cash between facilities to cover discrepancies before auditors arrived. This was not security. This was concealment. The Tampa Bay Times investigation also examined the company's armored truck operations. They found trucks without working brakes, trucks without functional seat belts, trucks without seats, undertrained drivers, a crash rate higher than major competitors. The company's founder, Stephen Cradier, acknowledged in a podcast interview that Garda World had faced bankruptcy 4 times. The fear of bankruptcy loomed, he said, even when business was going extremely well. a former executive offered a blunt assessment. If we are going to be a low-cost provider, what cost are we going to cut out of the business? The priority, he said, was making money, not spending it. The Easter Sunday heist did not occur in isolation. It occurred at a company with a documented history of missing funds, of inside jobs, of concealing problems from clients, of prioritizing growth over security. The pattern was clear to anyone who looked, and there was precedent in Los Angeles, a precedent that showed exactly how insider knowledge could be weaponized. September 12, 1997, the Dunbar Armored Facility in downtown Los Angeles. Sickies. Men robbed the building of $18.9 million. At the time, it was the largest cash robbery in American history. The record stood for 27 years. Until Easter Sunday 2024, the Dunbar heist was masterminded by Alan Pace. Pace worked for Dunbar as a regional safety inspector. While on the job, he photographed the facility. He examined security systems. He timed cameras. He determined how they could be avoided. Pace recruited 5 childhood friends. He provided them with detailed floor plans, camera locations, ski masks, weapons, radio headsets. On a Friday night, he used his keys to enter the building. The crew waited in the staff cafeteria. They ambushed guards one by one as they took their lunch breaks. Pace knew that on Friday nights, the vault was left open. Large quantities of money were being moved. He knew the rhythms, the vulnerabilities, the gaps in security. The day before the robbery, Pace was fired by Dunbar. The reason given was tampering with company vehicles. It did not matter. He had already gathered everything he needed. The crew escaped with $18.9 million. They laundered the cash through real estate transactions and shell companies. For 2 years, they lived well. Then one of them made a mistake. Eugene Lamar Hill paid a real estate broker with cash still bound in the original currency straps. The broker recognized the markings. He contacted police. Hill was arrested. He confessed. He named his accomplices. Alan Pace was convicted and sentenced to 24 years in federal prison. He was released in October 2020. Less than half of the stolen money was ever recovered. The lesson of the Dunbar heist was clear. An insider with time, knowledge, and motivation could defeat security systems designed to stop exactly that kind of threat. 27 years later, someone applied that lesson at the Garda World facility in summer. The investigation continues. The FBI has not announced arrests. The money has not been found. Garda World has not disclosed which of its clients lost funds in the heist, or whether the losses were insured, or what security failures allowed the breach to succeed. One additional detail emerged months after the robbery. In November 2023, 4 months before the Easter heist, Garda World Cash filed data breach notifications with multiple state attorneys general. The company disclosed that certain administrative files had been accessed in a security incident. The files contained personal information on approximately 39,000 people. Whether the hack and the heist are connected remains unknown, but the timing was notable. The company's digital security was compromised months before its physical security failed catastrophically. $30 million taken from a company trusted to protect billions by people who knew what was inside, who knew how to get in, who knew that the alarms at the summer facility had cried wolf so many times that no one would believe them when they told the truth. The vault is empty now. The investigation grinds forward, and the question hangs over everything. Who knew?